Everyone on the call. I'd like to welcome you all to this this month's webinar. I noticed that there's still a number of people trying to join, so maybe we give them 2 minutes or so just to catch up with us. 17th edition of our Leadership Conversations webinar. We've been running this on a monthly basis for about close to 2 years now. And it's been quite a pleasure to meet those who join us for these webinars and to exchange and interact on this subject of leadership. My name is Martin Oduor-Otieno. I'm the Executive Director at the Leadership Group, and we are your hosts today. I'm glad to have our keynote speaker today, Masila-Achola, who will be speaking to us today on the topic of how to invest in your frontline so as to impact the bottom line. And I'd like to take this early opportunity, Mercy, to thank you very much for joining us today, for agreeing to be our guest speaker for today. I also have a number of our team members at the Leadership Group here. I've got Kelly Muigai, who is going to be our admin for today for this webinar to make sure that everything runs well. And she will also be able to share with you on the chat box a number of documents about the Leadership Group, which you can go through and connect with us as our alumni. Where we also have Christabel as well as Kefa with us this morning, and I thank them for joining us as well. As you know, at the Leadership Group, we focus very much on the areas of coaching and mentorship, governance and board practice, strategy and business advisory, leadership and communication, as well as culture and change management. These are areas that are of great interest to us and to our clients. And so feel free to get in touch with us if you'd like to know more or to actually engage us to work with you or your organizations in any of these areas. We've been at this for the last 7 years or so. And so it's one of those things that we're very passionate about, and we continue to work with our clients to help support their objectives. We've worked with lots and lots of organizations across all sectors, public, private, not-for-profit, etc., individuals and organizations. And so you are in the right place with the right expertise to work with you in these areas. As I've mentioned, we've been running these webinars for the last close to 2 years now. And every time we run them, we invite those who attend to be part of our growing alumni community. So we encourage you to visit our website, Leadership Group, www.leadershipgroup.co.ke. And if you look in the chat box, Kelly has posted that, as well as our calendar of events for 2022. We do run 2 open programs every month, but we also run bespoke programs for organizations which talk to the needs of those specific organizations. I'd like now to introduce Mercy. As I introduce Mercy, you can see her on the screen. So Mercy Masila-Achola is the executive program lead at Maxwell Leadership, and she runs the organization called Value Connect Management Consultancy. She's a certified behavioral consultant, and She specializes in working with managers and executives and applies her experience and education to help them achieve the outcomes they desire and so become better leaders. She's also authored a book called Three's Divine, and she'll probably explain to us a bit more about that book. She's received many prestigious awards for her contributions, including the Maxwell Live to Lead Global 2020 Award and a World Women Leadership Award in 2019 for her work. Massi has got a master's degree in leadership and sustainability from University of Cambridge in the United Kingdom. She currently chairs the services sector at Kenya Association of Manufacturers and is a member of Women in Manufacturing Steering Committee. So we do have a great guest speaker today. Massi has been married for more than 20 years to her friend and soulmate, Masila-Achola, and they have together an 18-year-old son. As a person of faith, her mantra is to be a river and not a reservoir. So she wants to share and give out all that she has and to die empty, as she says. So Massi, I'd like to welcome you to this session. We'll be on with you for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then we'll have an open Q&A session thereafter. And we will stop on the dot at 12 noon so that people can continue to do what they do on their normal days and activities. So welcome, Massi. Looking forward to this engagement. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Martin. Truly honored, humbled, and blessed to be your guest speaker this morning. Thank you, Martin, and the rest of the team at Leadership Group for inviting me to be your guest speaker. As you have rightly mentioned, I have been reaching out to you on different fronts, Martin. I have been able to attend some of the leadership group sessions that you host. And if you're here and wondering whether this is something for you, I highly recommend that you do consider plugging in and finding out what more the leadership group does. So this morning I have been asked to speak to you, and when Martin reached out to me and he said, Massi, what would you like to talk to us about? I told Martin, I want to speak to a conversation that I think is very relevant in the time that we are in. And so I chose the topic on how to invest in your frontline so as to impact the bottom line. And I believe that you will find it very useful. I will share some slides. I want us to have an interactive session also. So feel free to type in the chat when I ask for the questions. Let's communicate, let's engage, and looking forward to adding value to you and serving you this morning. So as I share my slide, Kelly, let me know if you can see my slide. I've also been joined by my colleague, Joyce Mwangi. She's somewhere. Joyce, do you want to say a quick hello to everybody?
Hello, everyone. I'm Joyce, and I'm Massi's assistant. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Yes, I work together with Joyce, and we're privileged to serve you here this morning. So as we talk about how to invest your frontline and how to impact the bottom line, I thought I'd first begin by just sharing a little bit of who I am and what I do before we get into the conversation. In addition to what Martin has shared on my brief bio, I thought I would just give you a snapshot of what I do and how I do it. He's talked about the award that I won last year with the John Maxwell team for hosting and having the biggest impact with Live to Lead. If you do not know what Live to Lead is, that is one of the resources that we work with. And we have been a host in the last 3 years, and we'll be hosting again for the 4th time this year. Authoring Three's Divine, Martin said if I can mention something a little bit about it. This is a memoir I have put together, and I call it Three's Divine, my memoirs through the power of three. And as you will even see in the conversation today, I'm a believer in the power of three. And if you'd like to get yourself a copy, Joyce will happily just send a message to Joyce. She'll be sharing our contacts and we'll be happy to get you a copy. That's my family right there, my husband and my son. Again, we're a family of three. Yeah, three is divine. I also work with individuals. I'm a Rotarian at heart. Any Rotarians in the house? Put up your hand and let's say hello to each other. So gladly, I'm a member of the Rotary Club of Nairobi East, and we say we're the coolest club in town. And Martin has actually spoken to us at one time. So thank you for that. Let me just go. Oh, Sarah, I see your hand. Great to have another Rotarian here. In terms of what we do and how we do it, we're really about helping individuals, companies, leaders, and teams to grow themselves, to develop and hone your skills as a leader, as a communicator, as a team member, team player, in your personal growth development. If you're looking to improve your speaking skills, talk to us. I know one of the greatest fears most of us list and have is the fear of public speaking. We're also in business and life coaching. If you need a speaker, as Martin has invited me here today, we're happy to come and speak to your audience and to motivate them and inspire them to do bigger and greater things. We also do leadership assessments, the 360 degrees. Martin did mention I'm a behavioral consultant, so we do a lot of personality assessments that tie into how you can become a better leader, a better salesperson, an impactful communicator, and other areas that will grow you as a leader. So talk to us if that's an area you're looking at. This captures some of the clients we have been privileged to serve in different ways. But I want to emphasize that in addition to the corporates that we serve, we also work with SMEs, we also work with individuals. So if something you're looking for yourself or your team, we'll be happy to engage with you. And on to today's conversation, investing in your frontline to impact your bottom line. I want to guarantee you three things from the session today. One is I'm going to inspire you. From this conversation, you will live inspired to do something, to change something in what you have been doing in terms of tackling your bottom line. Secondly, I'm going to super challenge you. I will challenge you to think differently. I may present a few aspects that you may not have thought about before, and I want you to consider them. And then thirdly, I promise to empower you that you will live with at least one thing that you can apply immediately in your personal or professional life. But let me also issue a disclaimer here. Given the few minutes I have, I will not be able to cover everything. I'm just scratching the surface. So if you would like to delve deeper into the conversation, be sure to reach out to us and we can unpack some more with you and for you. So let's begin by this quote by Jim Collins. You know, our world has advanced in more ways than we can imagine. Competition of products in the marketplace, technology, markets are growing by the day. Even despite the pandemic, we are still seeing growth. But despite all that, any company that wants to thrive into the future, that wants to grow into the future, is not going to be able to do so without the ability to get and to keep the right people. So my question to you this morning is, do you have the ability to get and keep the right people in your organization? And as you think about that, let me pause here. And I want to ask you, normally, especially with what has been going on, we are all familiar with the bottom line. We all want our bottom line to look right. But how many of us think or consider the front line? So in the chat, kindly, quickly share with me, what is your front line? Do you know what your front line is? Let me see some answers. What is your front line? Do you know what your front line is? Any answers? Anyone? Any answers? Martin, what is your front line? Great people. Yeah, I see that. Great people. Martin told us great people. You know, I know quite a few of you, by the way, on the chat. So please, let me hear from you. Donald, what is your front line? Evelyn Olunja, what is your front line? I'll call you names. I'll call out your names now. Dorothy Koech. June, Pauline. Huh? Confused. Okay, frontline is confused. Evelyn says, our team, yes. Grace says, first point of contact for customers, most critical team, employees. And I'm seeing a lot of us are saying that people, those who are delivering the results for us are our frontline. So let's see, let's go on and see how this ties in. So understanding your frontline is very key. And the thing I want us to look at is, let's look at some definition. So frontline typically has been taken from the military language, and it has been indicated as a line that is formed that is most advanced in the tactical combat unit. So that's the military definition of what a frontline is. During the pandemic, we all became familiar with frontline workers, our healthcare workers, the people who were offering essential services. We came to know them as our frontline workers. And we thank them for having done that for us. But when it comes to the dictionary definition, it's used to describe employees who deal directly with customers, as most of you have said, and who deal directly with making of a product, especially if they're in the manufacturing field. They're people who generate a positive interaction with the client by offering them an excellent service, which generates excellent or great satisfaction, both for the client and also for the customer. So that is something I want you to bear in mind. But the key denominator of this frontline becomes something we all need to think and consider. And so I'll be sharing with you the communication strategy, a three-part approach that will help you, just like a missile does in the frontline, go for long-range impact in your organization to building the top line, which is your customers, protecting the bottom line, which we all are familiar with, and enhancing the middle line. So what does all this entail? I'll take you back to 1854. Just like we have a war right now in the Ukraine, in 1854 was the Crimean War. If you are a history student like myself, you may have come across this. And during that war, a very well-trained unit and equipped soldiers who are well prepared and intended for mission received a miscommunication that instead ended up sending them to the gauntlet of death. And Alfred Lord Tennyson captured this poem to illustrate just what happened with that army. Well prepared, well equipped, but getting the wrong communication, they faced their death at the battlefront, at the front line. And then many years later, and maybe some of us can even resonate with some of these stories, we have CEOs who stand before their very well-trained, very well-equipped employees, and they look at them in the eye and they say, the numbers are looking better and better. The customers from the outside think things are fine. And then in a very short, unprecedented time, the company doors shut down. Employees are sent off, they lose jobs. Is that a familiar scenario? And I'm sure even us here in Kenya, without mentioning names, we can relate with such entities. And everybody wondered what happened. It was looking nice and bright. What happened? So it boils down to communication, the power of communication. And this is where we want to look at how the power of communication actually impacts and affects your bottom line, your top line, and your midline. So let me start with the bottom line. From the battlefront, as we have seen, to the corporate front, even to our own very home front in our homes, miscommunication and lack of communication can have a very serious impact. Throughout history, the root of many disagreements, arguments, and unfortunate consequences has been or boiled down to the simple point of miscommunication or non-communication that could have easily been prevented. In our companies, miscommunication or lack of communication can impact the bottom line in the form of delays. You delay sending off products to your customer, inefficiencies of cost and time, service delivery issues. Worst case scenario, it even leads to financial losses, workplace accidents because people were not speaking to each other. And sadly, sometimes it can lead to lawsuits, loss of jobs, as we have seen. And kind to a logical end, miscommunication or non-communication can even have a leader sending employees into a territory they're not prepared for. I hope the leaders represented here, you are not one of them. And if you are, that you will learn and pick something from this session. The losses are so gross and have been reported. They've even been captured in service. As in this research done by David Grossman, and it is in a source from SHRM article, you can see the amount of losses, millions of dollars lost because of inadequate communication to and between employees. Deborah Hamilton has even written an article, the top 10 email blunders that cost companies money. And it does not discriminate whether you're a big organization or a small organization. If you are not communicating right, if you are not protecting your bottom line will be affected and impacted. Let's go to the next step of how communication will affect your top line. Now, top line in our definition here is really your customers, the people who bring you the revenue, the people that translate the gross sales of your company. Is all grounded in one thing, the customer. And how well a customer or a company serves its customers is directly reflected in these top line revenue numbers. Communication becomes very critical in this arena because you have to anticipate and listen to what your customers are telling you. They express their needs and desires in many ways. And if you're not listening, you will miss it. You have to hear and respond to the feedback that your customers are giving you. Last week, we saw the scenarios, long queues, because we were trying to all renew our SIM cards. And we were all throwing up in tantrums about the lack of communication of this exercise. That is what listening to and hearing your customers can do to you as a business. And so as any company that wants to engage with customers, you must be careful to listen and act on your customer response. You want to ask yourself, how are we listening? How are we tapping? And how are we interacting with the customer feedback that you are receiving? That is very key. That is very powerful. Then the third line that communication affects is the midline. Note, I went first bottom and I went to the top before I came to the midline. And the midline, the reason I approach it last is because the midline is like a glue. It's the part that holds the top and the bottom together. And it's normally said that people in the creative world, photographers, filmmakers, and artists, they're very brilliant in understanding the power of the middle line. You can look at a painting or a drawing, a piece of art, and it draws you to somewhere in the middle. That's how they mastered the art of capturing the middle line. And when it comes to the business world, the powerful companies or the companies that are growing are those that have a powerful, impactful midline. The people who are focused. We have the people, yes, who are at the front line, but you have the people who are doing the work behind the scenes. And you need a cohesive team that is highly efficient and highly effective to deliver the customer deliverables and also to protect the bottom line. And communication has to be very key to make all these parts work and work effectively. So you need to work on the communication aspect of that. And so what I'm basically trying to allude to is that communication is a very key component, an essential part, frontline that we all need to work and ensure it's effectively running in all the business lines that we have. And you're probably asking yourself, how does that happen? How do I do this? Let me share with you some tips on how you can use communication within your organization to ensure that you're communicating across all the business lines. And the first part, again, I go back to protecting the bottom line. How do you protect the bottom line? The first part of this is the communication that happens between the leader itself. We're all leaders here, and we all have self-conversations. The leader has the vision, and if the leader is not able to internalize and have a self-talk with themselves, have a mindset of knowing that what is driving you as a leader will have an impact on all the people you lead, then you will be failing at communication. John Maxwell said, everything rises and falls on the vision. Companies that are falling apart are attributable to the leader. Yeah? And the second part of it is you, the leader, communicating with your team. Is your team able to read and get the right communication? During the pandemic, for example, we saw the vulnerability of what being a leader is all about. We stood up, we told our teams, we don't know what the pandemic will lead us. And together we're able to find solutions to move us forward. So being a leader does not mean knowing everything, but it's having the trust to communicate to your people. And failure to communicate becomes a failure in protecting the bottom line. Quickly, I go to how do you build a top line? You protected the bottom line, but how do you build the top line? Like I said, when it comes to the top line, it's about the customers. And the currency language that customers know or speak to is currency. You know, it's all about the money they spend with us. That's the currency language. And sometimes if we are not offering product or service as expected to our customers' desire, or the pricing, the quality is not what our customers expect of us, then we will be losing a very key component there. And so the need to listen is what's going to determine whether we are having customer retention and whether we're engaging with customers. And failure to do so, it does not matter how high or beautiful a sales pitch you will have to your customers. If you're not doing these three things, then you're not building your top line and you will not go very far. I want to pose to you these three questions, and let me pose here. I want to ask you, sorry, I meant to still keep my slide share. I want you to ponder on these three questions as regards your own company. And ask yourself, is your company serving the needs of your customers well? What's your answer to that? Number two, is the quality and price of products and services that you offer aligned to your customer expectations? And thirdly, are the frontline supporting customers at their highest possible level? If you can answer these questions, three of them, and be very honest with your answer to this, This will bring out a conversation with your customers on where you as the leader and where your teams should be purposefully listening to the needs of your customers and seeking to proactively address these issues. If you do that, you can save yourself a lot of money, even through the things we try and do with marketing. I'm not saying we don't need marketing, but I'm saying these three questions can help to save you quite a lot on that front. And then we go to our midline. What do you want to do with our midline? Through communication, we want to enhance the midline. So you have protected the bottom line. You have built the top line, and now we want to enhance the midline through communication. All of us here, as human beings, we want to be valued. And any leader, any team that values its people, any organization that values its people, is going to have the right people in the right places. Very key, because having honest communication, vigorous debate, it's encouraged. I know some of us work in organizations where when the leader speaks, that's it, the word and say, and no one else can speak. No, I want to encourage you to think about debating, opening up to different people sharing their different perspectives. And this can help save our company a lot of money. Yeah. Developing a solid team is about ensuring these four areas are working and working well with you, and will give you a formidable force against any challenge you will face as an organization. And so you want to work on embracing different views, different perspectives, and respectfully handling the differences that occur in the organization. And communication is key and paramount in this. Now, I have dwelt a lot on how communication is very critical and how you can use it to enhance on your bottom line, your top line, and your midline. And you're probably asking, Mercy, so what is this communication all about? Is there a communication approach or model that you can say you should consider as a leader? And my answer to you is that every leader needs to communicate. And we need to have the art of communicating. We have something we say in the Maxwell leadership team that everyone communicates and you connect. Have you ever had somebody standing in front of you? They're talking to you, yes, they're communicating, but you cannot hear or understand what it is they're saying. When I say you cannot hear, because you're spaced out, you're in a different place altogether. Or secondly, you cannot understand because the language being spoken to you does not make sense. You're not connecting. And so as leaders, we want, I'm not saying we become micromanagers, and neither am I saying we become an ostrich leader, meaning we bury your head in the sand and not sharing what is happening. Martin said the leadership group is about providing mentorship and coaching. Being a good leader is about being a guide, being a mentor to your people. And it includes everything from clearly conveying and discussing your mission, vision, goals, clarity on plans, processes, job roles, etc. But remember, communication is a two-way street. It takes two to tango. I'm going to go into the details of a communication plan or strategy because we do not have time for that now. But I want to share with you just a little bit of an insight. In the Maxwell leadership team, we have something we call the Maxwell method of communication, where we help leaders like you and myself to have a valuable tool in our hands that will help us to enhance our communication. I will give an example. We've all been in a classroom where a teacher was teaching and they broke down the topic that they were teaching us. And they use certain analogies. For example, They could be talking about the need for teams and teams to grow and engage. And then they decide to allude to a team. A lot of us here, Kenyans, follow the Premier League. So we can use analogies. Today I saw in the news, Man U was defeated by who? Football fans? Who was Man U beaten by? Yeah, Liverpool. And then they said they're what? They're 5 years behind Liverpool. So what does that really mean in that context? It's in the sense that now you understand in terms of skill, development of team engagement, Man U is 5 years behind Liverpool. So using that kind of analogy helps to simplify the information to the person who you're trying to communicate with and engage. And so the question is it possible to have that similar kind of communication in the workplace? So the Maxwell method of communication, we have, we tied into the DISC method, and it shows different ways that you can communicate as a person. So I'm going to give you tips. One, it entails you knowing the people in your team. Do you understand their personalities? Because each personality requires a different way of communicating. So let me give you a few tips. I said I'll give you something to live and walk away with. The first one, there are 4 personalities. This is about DISC, and each style has a different way, characteristic it shows up and all. And the D people tend to be very direct, very forward, they're results driven. And if you have this kind of a person in your team, the key thing when you're communicating with them is use action words. They're about now, you know? They don't want things that happened in the past or future. They want to see where things are going to now. So if you have that kind of a person in your team, this is how the tip for you to communicate with them. Then we have those we call, let me just bring it all out because it's flowing differently. So the DISC is there. The eyes are the people we say they're fun to be around, they light up the room, they are great storytellers. And when it comes to communicating with them, you need to keep your communication light. Yeah, because they love stories. If you tell too many stories, they will lose out the detail in it. Yeah, don't give them long assigned projects. They don't like that. That is too much work for them. They hate detail. I see Kelly smiling. She probably can recognize somebody like that in her team. So think about that person, and there is a tip of how you engage with them. Now, S-style people tend to be very team-oriented. They don't like being in the spotlight. So don't put them to be the ones holding the mic, yeah? But they also want to feel like they're helping other people. So give them those, use that language that helps them feel they belong to the team, but don't raise your voice on them. Do not be aggressive or push when you're communicating, because then you will disconnect with them. And then the C-style people, I like to say, these are people who dot their I's and cross their T's. That's how you identify them. And for them, they are so data-driven and very task-oriented. So if you're giving them or communicating to them, be concise. What is the timeline expected of them? Have a plan. Don't share everything everywhere. You know, be concise, step by step, if you want them to follow through with you and to connect with that. And if you can master how each person's way of learning, working, and communicating, then you as the leader will become an effective communicator, and you will find you're getting the support that you need from your team and the work that you're working. So I'll not go into much more detail on that. That's a tip you can use right there. And I hope that it will be helpful to you and as you go ahead. And then I will conclude here with a quote from John Maxwell, which he says, if you want to succeed as a leader, you must learn how to connect with others. If you can connect with others at every level, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's in a group, it doesn't matter. You must be able to increase their sense of community, get them to be motivated to work as a team, and to increase their productivity. And if you can master this, I can guarantee you, this frontline approach is really going to guide you and help you enhance and have a bigger impact onto your bottom line. Thank you very much. I'm going to share our details right there. Joyce is with me online. She's also put out our contact details. If you want to reach out to us, I'm happy to take any questions that you might have in the few minutes left. Thank you very much for listening to me and for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mercy. Wow, what a conversation there. Lots of learning there. Let's see some comments and observations and questions coming through the chat box. But first of all, let's give Mercy a big round of applause. Thank you so much. We'll open this session. We have about 10 minutes, so we'll open this session for comments, questions from yourselves, and then we'll give Mercy 1 or 2 minutes to make her final comments as we close off. As I mentioned, we'll let you off by 12 noon on the dot. So just raise your hand and speak, or put your comment in the chat box and we shall read it out. In the meantime, Joyce has put the contacts of Mercy and team in the chat box. You can pick up those, you can download those. Do I see any hands up? I see in the chat box June's question. As a leader, how does one handle those who lament more often than not? Right.
Okay. You want me to answer that, or do you want me to wait for more questions?
Just answer that as the others come.
Okay. Great question, June. The first thing I would recommend or suggest you do as a leader is find out, why is this person lamenting? Okay. Are they lamenting because at the beginning they did not understand the assignment? And so instead of them having a culture of asking for clarification, that they choose to lament instead. So establish that. Because sometimes, and we are human, how many times do we choose to lament instead of seeking clarification? And so if you can establish the cause, then you can begin to address it there. Now, if they are just people who are lamenting for the sake of lamenting, you as the leader can also take the initiative to invite them to share what is their perspective. Yeah. And of course, you don't want it to become a toxic environment. So in that case, if they are perpetual lamenters, this you want to address one-on-one, not in a group context. Let them come and tell you, ask them questions. This is where coaching comes in. If you're asking the right questions, you will get the right answers. And then from there, you can be able to address it. Thank you.
Mercy, there's a really interesting one here from Alex Mugo. What about the midline that have a difficulty communicating with the bottom line? How do we deal with that? And then if you can take that plus Kelly's question, can one have two of the DISC personalities, or one is either DISC?
Mm-hmm. Great questions there. Let me start with Alex's question. The reason I have focused today on the leaders or the top is because this session, from the invite that Kelly shared with me, shows mainly you're speaking to the leaders of the organization. But typically when we have come in to address the communication issue, you start with the top. Everything rises and falls on leadership. But when we conduct this, we begin to conduct the communication impact reports, we cascade it to every level of the organization, because you open up everyone to understanding themselves first, because you communicate with yourself first before anybody else, and then how you interact and communicate with those around you. It could be a small team, it could be the big team. So the approach does not mean that the midline does not need to be exposed to this. They are and they should be. But you know, in Kenya, in Africa, we say the fish rots from the head. So we want to address the communication liability from the top, and then we cascade it downwards. Kelly's question, the DISC personality, yes, we can have more than one. Some even have 3. And that is why we recommend that you actually take the assessment, the DISC impact report, communication impact report, because from doing it, you're able to see yourself. What are you? Do you have more than one? And if you have more than one, when does it show up? Because the truth is, if you have more than one, it means that you're showing up in the different behavioral styles at different times and in different contexts. So you want to have that self-awareness so that you know when what to do when what style shows up. But that's an excellent question. Thank you.
And I think, Mercy, you've probably answered Marianne's question, which is how can one tell where you fall in DISC, right? So you need to take the assessment.
Talk to us. Yes, we're doing the assessments. Talk to us.
Talk to Mercy, right?
Joyce is posting our contacts there. Reach out to us and we'll be happy to do this for you. And to learn more also about it, yes.
There's a heavy one here from Ann Komira, Mercy, which says, how does culture affect leadership? And can the two be aligned? And she's given an example here of somebody who goes and gets a great leader, but when they come in, they start getting frustrated or sabotaged by the internal systems. So how does culture affect leadership? And then you can probably take that, and the next one from Evelyn, how do you handle communication breakdown where some staff find it difficult to talk to each other at the expense of work?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me start with Anne's question. Culture, as Martin and his team will tell you, culture is strategy for breakfast. Yeah, you can have the best strategy in the world as an organization, but if your culture is disconnected, it's going to impact the way you operate as an organization. And its impact and effect on leadership comes into context. And using your example specifically, you know, every organization has values that it stands for, and it's from values that culture is grown from. And all of us as individuals, we also have values. And I normally say, especially if you're going on an interview, just because it's looking like a great organization, because it's looking like it's doing very well, always choose to examine the values of that organization and find out if they are aligned to your own values as an individual. Because if there's a disconnect there, then you're not going to be able to survive or to thrive in that organization. So this comes into a question of looking into values, and not values that are written on the wall. Are these values that are being lived? Are they being lived? And how is that integration being done? When leaders say that we value open communication, is it actually accepted? Are people allowed to speak up and to voice what it is that they are feeling? So let's learn to live our values, and let's learn to integrate them into what we do. It's one of the things we also engage teams in team exercises when we move in. We like to do it actually. It's normally an icebreaker we do, helping you understand the values that you have as a person and also as an organization. And ask yourself, what are you willing to compromise on or otherwise? And then coming to the issue of communication breakdown, which Evelyn has asked, more often than not, the reason why there's communication breakdown is because of what I will summarize it in this way. There's a golden rule that says, treat others the way you want to be treated. And let me use you, Kelly, as an example. Kelly and I happen to be different personalities, and I want to treat Kelly the way I am treated. Then definitely we are going to have a clash. So in the Maxwell leadership team, we say there's a platinum rule. Treat others the way they want to be treated. And that entails me learning what is Kelly's personality? What makes her tick? What kind of communication approach should I be using with Kelly? And then I go to her as Kelly. And if Kelly learns how my style is and how I like to be approached on that, she will also use the same on that. Then you will minimize the breakdown in communication. Not, I say minimize, not avoid, because we are human beings, yeah? I can have mastered Kelly and then she's having a stressful moment. We disconnect, you get it? So we minimize. And this is an approach that not only works in the workplace, it's useful in our homes, it's useful in all the relationships that we are involved in. And I encourage, if more of us took the time to understand how the other person wants to be communicated to, we would all move forward much faster and with less effort, less conflict than we're currently having. Unfortunately, I want to be treated as mercy, and I'm bullish. I go in with that and everything falls apart. So that would be my answer to the communication breakdown. Inviters, Evelyn will come, will help you how to address it. Thank you.
Wow. Any further questions or comments? I don't see any others in the chat box. Does anybody want to raise their hand and speak? You have some love hearts there from Kelly Mercy. You must have spoken to her heart on something. There's lots of compliments in the chat box for you, Mercy. So thanks for that.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I don't see any. Mercy, at the start of the conversation, you spoke about generating positive interaction with clients. And you spoke about listening, you spoke about feedback, you spoke about action. Could you just spend a minute and just talk about listening? Because most of us are not great at listening. We love talking. So just a few comments about listening.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you, Martin. A great question there. Now, coming back to the communication approach, yeah? The reason why most of us have a challenge about listening is because even before Martin finishes the question he's just asked me, I already have an answer I have designed in my head that I need to tell Martin. And that is the beginning of the disconnect when it comes to our customers. Many of us think because we have created the product, because we have created the service, that we have all the answers. And lo and behold, if we just stopped short and listened to what the customer is asking us, we would be amazed at what exactly they are looking for and how they want it delivered. Let me use an example here. During the pandemic, when most of us switched to online purchases because of the pandemic, many people, many of us also were very resistant in making the switch to online. And we were bullish. We were thinking if we keep our doors open, if I'm not gonna go online, my customers will still come to me. Shock on us when we realized they're not coming, because the customers were saying they want to go online, they want a safe environment. And there were those who switched but were late in doing so. The early adapters got it because they were listening and they were paying attention. So the key thing about listening, if you're having a face-to-face interaction, pause, hear what the customer is saying. Better still, join the leadership group and they'll help you with coaching, because coaching is not about your employees only. Coaching is about learning how to ask the right questions. And that includes questions to your clients. And if you ask them the right questions, you will hear where their pain points are and you'll be able to know how do you meet that pain point. And if you don't have the solution, you get equipped on how to address it. Let me leave it at that, Martin. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mercy. Our time is up for today. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you very much, to thank everybody who has joined us on this webinar today. I hope you found it useful. We do run these webinars every month around about this time of the month, and therefore, if you download what Kelly has posted in terms of our resources, our materials, our calendar of events, our programs, you'll be able to get all that. She will also share this with you after the session on email, on your email, so that you don't say you didn't know or you forgot. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at our future events as well. Do reach out to us on the areas that we spoke about, and reach out to Mercy as well. Her contacts are now in the chat box. And Mercy, should I give you a final minutes to summarize it all in 1 minute, and then we shall bid bye to everybody?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Martin, for giving me this opportunity to speak with all your guests today. And I just want you to be left with one thing. And this one thing is, we are all created different. We are all different, but guess what? We are all predictably different. If you take the time to learn and master what the human mind and thought is all about, you will discover that we are all predictably different. Thank you very much, Martin and the Leadership Group. I'm really, really grateful for this time, and I look forward to being part of your future engagements. Thank you, and God bless all of you.
Thank you, Mercy. Thank you, everybody. That brings us to the end of our session today. Thanks, Kelly, and stay safe until we see you again in one of our programs in future. Bye-bye.